about an opening question, and then we'll open it to the audience. I met a prominent South Korean businessman earlier this week, and he was telling me that there's increasing uncertainty because of some of the statements that Mr. Trump has made in Korea about the U.S. nuclear umbrella. And I'm just wondering, and his comment was that perhaps South Korea will have to develop its own nuclear weapons. Is this a common view, and what do you think is the probability, Dr. Kim and maybe Dr. Terry, that South Korea would consider developing its own nuclear weapons program?
Well,
is it working? If it's not, you can just come up here.
It works. It works. Works. It does? Oh, yeah, it works. Yeah, sure. It's a possibility, but very remote possibility, in my opinion. I mean, if Trump becomes the president, I mean, if he reduces its presence from Asia, if the U.S. cannot live up to the commitments that U.S. has already made in Asia and all over the Korean Peninsula, if U.S. fails to provide extended deterrence to Korea, I mean, what would be the remaining option? So increasingly, a growing number of people are saying that, well, we will have to develop our own nuclear weapons. I mean, this is completely a new situation, you know, fifth nuclear test and the missiles capabilities, ICBMs, and also submarine-launched ballistic missiles. I mean, this has been a game changer, and we are pretty sure that the American nuclear deterrence, that promise is very strong, but sometimes we wonder whether extended deterrence is enough. I mean, it's enough. I mean, but extended deterrence is a little bit ambiguous. The terminology itself, because U.S. in American foreign policy making circle, actually, the U.S. foreign policymakers do not really use that terminology anymore. A nuclear umbrella. That has been quite intuitive to Koreans, because you get under American nuclear umbrella and you feel very safe, but the U.S. has withdrawn that terminology, was replaced by extended deterrence, and some Koreans wonder what that really means. Although nuclear deterrence is an important part of extended deterrence, but some Koreans believe that the Americans are really specific and explicit about the role of American nuclear weapons to this concept of extended deterrence. And I think that is the reason why more and more people are calling for developing our own nuclear weapons. But we do have our commitment to the international community, and we don't really want to become like North Koreans. You know, North Koreans are saying that they are developing nuclear weapons because of the threat posed by the United States. And if we develop our nuclear weapons because of the threat posed by North Koreans, and we are going to be just like North Koreans. So we're not going to go to that path, but you will have to understand why these voices are coming out. Yeah.
Dr. Terry, do you want to comment
Yes,
on that?
This showcases the problem with Mr. Trump's rhetoric. This kind of view was actually a minority view in South Korea. South Korea developing nuclear weapons. I mean, some people talk about it, but it wasn't. We have to show a strong alliance, right? South Korea is under U.S.'s nuclear umbrella, but because of the kind of rhetoric that we've seen, it's making our ally very, very nervous. And do we want this kind of reaction from our key ally in the region? And what's going to happen if South Korea develops nuclear weapons? What's Japan going to do? It's going to develop its own nuclear weapons in a nanosecond. And this is what we want in the East Asian region?
Thank you. I think we'll open it up. Dr. Milton.
It's a follow-up question, actually, on this. The reason that South Korea would have to contemplate its own nuclear weapons is because of what's happening in North Korea. Isn't the real answer, and I know your fear of 1 million troops coming over the border, isn't the real answer to take out that North Korean threat now, physically?
Why are you asking that too? Yeah.
Why don't we have you, Dr. Terry?
Well, nobody has accused me of being a softliner. However, there is a problem with just taking it out. Take out exactly what. There's a lot of, it's not like we can even count and we know exactly where everything is. So there's a lot of complications with just hitting something. However, it is true that once North Korea really develops its capability to where it has mastered where its ballistic intercontinental missile with nuclear weapon can hit mainland United States, we might have to start thinking about some lethal action, maybe not taking something out, but at least when you have a missile that's flying out to Japan, or at least being able to take that out. But what you're suggesting, I think, is kind of there's a lot of technical complications to that. First of all, we don't know all the nuclear weapon sites. I mean, all the nuclear weapons program.
Sir?
Why don't you go back to TPP, which only came up at the very late stage of the conversation. And I was hoping that since it's a critical element of the whole Asia pivot and the whole change in the world, it relates to Brexit and a whole lot of things that are going on, the very, very substantially increased role of Asia trade, and prospectively that their growth rates will be higher than the rest of the world. And the question is then, if you could give background on why South Korea stayed out of TPP before and up till now, and what is the prognosis for, assuming we have some sensible people in D.C. left after all these years, and that it is passed in the lame duck session, that what is the prognosis for South Korea coming on board, which clearly would be very significant to the overall context of the relationship?
Mm-hmm. Yes, my answer to that is very clear and short. Yes, we are ready to get on board. And we already opened our position like that. But the answer we got from Washington is U.S. was so busy in handling with Japan, who were the latecomer to join this group. Now that the negotiation itself is over, so once it entered into force, then we don't really like to lose even one day waiting for our membership, to get on board.
Sir, the very back.
I have this brochure, Preparing Unification, Promoting Peace, Presidential Committee for Unification. Nobody saw from high panelists spoke about unification. Unification is not peaceful. This is a breaking of status quo. And of course, in triangle China, Japan, and Korea, South Korea, the same triangle is in Europe, Russia, Germany, and Poland. And you know each other is a similar situation. Of course, 25 years ago was the best situation when Kim Il-sung died. You didn't use this occasion. And now you must prepare a different situation.
So
I
do you
give
have a
you
question?
some. Yeah, I give you some advice how do unification. First, you must negotiate with North Korean generals, North Korean, to prepare them to take over North Korea and give them promise for 10 years of martial law and make some movement like was in European triangle, solidarity movement. And of course, for you will be easy to unificate both countries. And how start this? First do free Korean radio and free Korean American television. Of course, always this is risky, but this is only one method how start and do unification. I advised this 25 years ago.
Thank you very much.
Korean
So we
television.
want to give other people a chance to ask a question. Mr. Blissett. My question. There will be a reception, so you can provide your advice at that time, sir. Yes.
So my question goes back to is there a trade deficit with Korea, South Korea? is there a trade deficit between the United States and South Korea? We looked at growth rates and different sorts of pieces of the trade relationship, but I didn't see a chart that talked about what is the trade deficit, if there's one. So that's a question. And I'm going to go do questions. The second thing is it in an era where we're talking about a threat to free trade, does it make sense to point to other trading partners and say, well, you're better than them? So when you talk about Germany and you talk about Japan in some of the charts, I think there is a battle about whether free trade is good at all. To say that you're better than others just emboldens the people who are questioning free trade. So I just wonder how persuasive that is.
Minister?
Yeah. Yes. First, I have some figures here. For example, in 2015, which was the last year, the total of our two-way trade, both goods and services altogether, is 148 billion. 148 billion. If I split it between goods and services, goods is 31 billion, or almost 32 billion, while no, that's the services. Sorry, 32, while 117 is trading goods. So altogether, that's 148 something. I mean billion. And here, if I split in whose favor, in trading goods, we are enjoying kind of 25 billion in our favor, surplus, while in trading services, U.S. is enjoying almost 11 billion. Well, it differs, the numbers, sometimes. Which statistics am I quoting? Either U.S. one or Korean one, because their approach of data handling is slightly different, but there's not big difference. So this is 25 billion versus 10 billion. So altogether, Korea is has a surplus of 15 billion altogether, out of 115 billion two-way trade. If you look at what you said about the other trading partners, well, let me see China. Your trade deficit is almost 350 billion a year. And how about with Canada? How about with Mexico? How about with Germany? So if you say this trade deficit of 10 billion out of 150 billions of a two-way trade is unbearable for U.S. economy, I think that's hard to accept. Thank you.
Sir? Right up front? Could you wait for the microphone? Yeah.
Thank you. Jimmy Carter, during the 1976 presidential election, advocated pulling all the troops out of Korea, South Korea. My question is, isn't there a bit of an overreaction to Trump's rhetoric here?
Yeah, of course. Jimmy Carter, but we pretty much knew that Jimmy Carter was on the rise because of inward-looking national mood. Sort of isolationist national mood. They came out after Vietnam War, so-called post-Vietnam syndrome. So we pretty much saw it coming. But this year, nobody really anticipated such a strong showing of Trump. I think it had more to do with the limitations of globalization or neoliberal economic policies to a certain extent. In August this year, I went to Washington, D.C. Instead of talking to a lot of opinion leaders, instead of talking to experts, I interviewed like 12 ordinary people, regular people on the street from all walks of lives. Plumber, former police chief of Fairfax County, and overwhelmingly they were in support of Mr. Trump. They are hurt, and they think jobs are disappearing. They think social mobility isn't there anymore, that the ladder through which they can climb up to the upper echelon of the society is missing. American dream is a myth. Polarization isn't really a myth. So the Trump's rise has a lot to do with the structural change underneath that nobody in the establishment really was not able to witness. So I think that this mood, national mood that has become substantially inward-looking, would become a barrier or would work to the disadvantage of anyone, whoever comes into office next year in the White House in year 2017. This could be a little bit of an unfavorable foreign policy making environment. And I think the one message that the American electorate has been sending to the candidates is that now is about time to reorganize American national priorities, and instead of trying to tackle these seemingly intractable problems abroad, we will have to concentrate more on resolving these domestic problems. So we are really overreacting to Trump phenomenon. I think although Trump would not become, I believe that he would not become the president, but we will certainly have to think about the consequences of Trump phenomenon, I believe, and that the barrier that it could pose to a foreign policy making capability of the next administration that will come to office in year 2017. Yes.
Dr. Kim, we're going to give you the last word. Please join me in thanking this outstanding panel.